Good Sunday afternoon. It is time for the I'm Report. It is Sunday, August 2nd. Today we are going to preview the Mid-American Conference, if they have a season or not, and the NFC East, and what needs to change for baseball to keep playing at this point. If you've been watching Major League Baseball in the past week, you've heard about all the players that have been testing positive for COVID-19, which could put the season in jeopardy at some point. Does baseball need to reconsider some things? Yes, they do. Is canceling the season an option? Yes, it should be on the table. But I have some ideas on how to save the season. Stagger the season to October. I think that was one thing that was proposed by Scott Boras. Normally, I'm not a big fan of Scott Boras, but I do think that is one thing they should do. Second, I think players need to be sequestered. If you want to keep playing baseball, I think you got to, when you're not at the practicing or playing a game, you need to be sequestered in a hotel. This is how it's going to work for sports until we have a vaccine. It's already showing that the not having any sort of bubble or sequester is not working. Something has to change. I think sequestering the players needs to be on the table. And third, umpires must wear masks. That's got to happen. Umpires need to mask up. Coaches, managers, mask up. Fine players for not masking up. Fine the umpires for not masking up. You could also encourage more social distancing by maybe having players sit in the clubhouse until they're up for at bat or they're on deck. That might be some common sense rules there, that you maybe just keep the coaches in the dugout and maybe have the players in the clubhouse unless it's their turn. Those are some options you could consider to improve these COVID protocol for Major League Baseball. What can NFL learn? This is one huge. I think NFL's got to learn from the mistakes of what's happening in Major League Baseball in order to avoid any outbreaks when the NFL season rolls around. NFL, it's a lot more difficult to hold a football bubble. You can't have so many teams at one football stadium as of right now. So I don't think a bubble is feasible for the NFL. But the sequester, you do need to maybe sequester staff and players during the weeks. And maybe, I don't know what you do during the bye weeks, but I think for the most part, NFL needs to consider sequestering players for the season. And get all the, right now NFL players are beginning to test positive as training camps are fast approaching in the NFL. Gardner Minshew, Matthew Stafford possibly testing positive. So you got to have the COVID list. That's already on the works. As you will have at least be out 3 weeks if an NFL player tests positive for COVID-19. But I do think you do have to think of a sequester where players must remain in a hotel. Sequester them from the public until their season's over. I kind of think that's what's going to take for an NFL season to work. So that's what Roger Goodell and the NFLPA need to do right now before the season starts on September 10th. College football. I don't think there's going to be a college. I think the NCAA has to see what's going on with MLB to know. I just don't see college football happening this fall. Even a conference-only schedule, you have to look at pausing it until at least the spring. Why the spring? You will certainly have some vaccines that will be available for emergency use. We don't know where sports athletes will rank. Among first responders will likely get the first dibs. Elderly will probably be the second But I think sports athletes will probably be third on the list to get a vaccine for COVID. So I think there will be at least maybe two or three different vaccines out there. But we'll see how these phase 3 trials do. But I do think we'll have some sort of a vaccine available by then. Now, since I'm going to start going into the group more into the group of 5 the next couple weeks, these are schools where you could plausibly see the season completely get canceled, because the Power 5 schools, for the most part, are planning conference only. Pac-12 players there are pushing for a pause. So there is a really good chance we will not. That now the fallout for the group of 5 is, will there be bowl tie-ins? That's another fluid situation. It's going to be bowl games this year. Do we see a change in bowl tie-ins to keep players closer to their schools? There is a good chance we may not have bowl games this year. And if we do have bowl games, they would be played maybe in June if say football's played in the spring. The other thing we could see with spring college football is we might see a lot of players opt out due to the NFL draft being in April, unless the NFL draft gets pushed back to the summer. So there are some things there that there's going to be a lot of logistics that's going to have to work out but when the NCAA announces they're pushing back college football to the spring. Whereas these group of 5 conferences, they're not exactly flush of cash. Certainly schools like New Mexico State that are independent, a lot of these smaller schools that are independent could find themselves in a situation where they may have to forego the season just due to the financial costs of playing games without spectators. But in the MAC, if they do have a season, here's kind of think where we could see each team end up in the MAC this year. We are going to start off with the Eastern Division. In 6th place, it will be the Akron Zips. It's not that Akron's bad or anything like that. It's only their second year in the FBS level. So it's going to take time to build a football program at the FBS level. Bowling Green, 5th place. Second year of rebuild at Bowling Green. I think they will probably win at least 4 games this year at Bowling Green. Kent State, 4th place. Kent State will probably win 7-8 games this year. Sean Lewis is finally getting Kent State back on track in the MAC. Third place, the Ohio Bobcats. Frank Solich's teams are always contending in the MAC every single year. But they do have to see if Curtis Rourke can replace Nathan Rourke this year in the Mid-Atlantic Conference. Second place, Miami of Ohio. Chuck Martin could get considerations for jobs at Power 5 schools this year. Miami of Ohio is coming back from a division title win. Brett Gabbert, his second year at quarterback. So the band is all back for Miami of Ohio. And you've got the University of Buffalo Bulls. Kyle Van Treese is very efficient at quarterback. Tyron Hill, Buffalo. We'll see how they do against Miami of Ohio and Ohio. Those 3 teams will be competing for a trip to Detroit this year. In the Western Conference, 6th place Eastern Michigan. The tough schedule is what likely sets back Eastern Michigan this year. Northern Illinois. Thomas Hammock will look to get Illinois back to a bowl game this year. I do think they will get some way, somehow, to 6-6 at Northern Illinois. Western Michigan. Tim Lester should get back on track this year. All-State 3rd place. The Cardinals should get to a bowl game this year. Central Michigan, they should be contending with Jim McElwain at head coach at Central Michigan. I think they should get 8 or 9 wins this year. And then the Toledo Rockets in 1st place. Toledo could be the team that goes to Detroit this year. We shall see. Will there be a bowl? As I said, a lot of this situation for the group of 5, it is very fluid. Next week, we will preview the Fresno State Bulldogs and the Mountain West Conference. Now on to the NFC East. We will go 4th place, Washington. The R word is gone. A new name will soon take over for Washington. Hopefully, it'll be the Red Tails. But this year, it will be Dwayne. It's a culture change this year in Washington. They get rid of Bruce Allen, which was a really good move by Dan Schneider. And then they bring in a guy to change the culture in Ron Rivera. This is a good change of scenery. Also, this year at quarterback, this will be a Dwayne Haskins team for better or for worse this year. Maybe later this year, hopefully, we can see the return of Alex Smith. Smith was medically cleared for football activities again. I would love to see by the end of the year Alex Smith return to the field. That would make my day. Me being a 49ers fan, I hated the way things ended for Alex Smith in San Francisco. I would love to see Alex Smith just get one more last snap. After having that gruesome injury a couple seasons ago. So I'm hoping for that. And also other reasons to give you hope. Chase Young, another face of the franchise on defense. It's not going to translate to wins just yet. But I do think Washington could win 3 or 4 games this year. And this will be year 1 of culture change in D.C. 3rd place, the New York Giants. A lot more questions and answers with the New York Giants this year. You are now going into the 2nd year of Daniel Jones and Danny Dimes. Will he have a sophomore slump? You've got Saquon Barkley who's back. But, of course, the problem with the New York Giants was defense this year. Last year, defense was terrible. I also question the hire of Joe Judge. I don't think that it's... We'll see if Andrew Thomas can protect Danny Dimes this year. But I think they're gambling on Patriots magic in New York, and I don't think it's going to work. I didn't like the hire of Joe Judge, and this was not a good move by Steve Tisch and John Mara, and they didn't really address a lot on the defense in New York, so I think it's going to be another long year for the New York Giants, and if Danny Dimes has a sophomore slump this year, they could finish in the cellar. I think they'll win 5 or 6 games at best. But I think New York Giants are at a crossroads right now. And I think if they do finish 4 wins or less, Dave Gettleman's going to get the axe in New York. I never thought they should have hired Joe Judge. It was the wrong move. New York Giants are in trouble this year. Second place, the Philadelphia Eagles. They did get an insurance policy at quarterback by the name of Jalen Hurts. A lot of people question them drafting Jalen Hurts. I'm actually okay with this. Carson Wentz, he's a very good quarterback when he's healthy. Unfortunately, he's not been able to stay healthy a whole season. Wentz is too injury prone, so that's why they went and drafted Jalen Hurts. Also, you can put Hurts in read option formations, so you can add another wrinkle to Doug Peterson's offense. So I think this was a good move by Philadelphia. Philadelphia should be a wild card contender this year. And I think Philadelphia, Howie Roseman is a good general manager. But I don't know but I certainly think the Philadelphia Eagles will be in the wild card hunt this year. They are going to go running back by committee this year with Miles Sanders and but we'll see if Jalen Reagor could be the go-to guy for Carson Wentz this year. If all things, I think Philadelphia will at least have a fighting chance of a wild card spot, if not for the division title. First place, the Dallas Cowboys. I don't like the Dallas Cowboys. I'm a 49ers fan. But Dallas made all the right moves in the draft this year. They went and drafted a stud wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb and a stud cornerback in Trayvon Diggs. Dallas is going to be good this year. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott. The problem is quarterback. I am not sold on Dak Prescott. If you take away Ezekiel Elliott, Prescott is an average quarterback. That could be Dallas's downfall is if Ezekiel Elliott regresses this season. But they do have the defense. Things should be better under Mike McCarthy now that he's in Dallas. So this is the reason why they also brought in a solid backup in Andy Dalton. So it is playoffs or bust for Dallas this year. I don't think it will be Mike McCarthy getting fired after 1 year. I think it's Dak Prescott's. It's Dak Prescott on the hot seat this year. This is the year he's got to get Dallas to a playoffs. And not just the playoffs. He's under pressure to win the NFC East. Jerry Jones is not a patient owner. The defense and offense should be good enough to win a division title in Dallas. Whether or not they are a Super Bowl contender is another question. But I do think that, and of course, the former 49er, Aldon Smith. He's now in Dallas. Can he stay out of trouble? That's what Jerry Jones is gambling. Jerry Jones does not like to lose. But that will be your winners this year for the NFC East. It will be the Dallas Cowboys. Next week, I am going to preview what I think is going to be one of the most wide open divisions in the NFL next week, the NFC North. Everybody, stay healthy, stay awesome, mask up, save lives. Goodbye.